Alright, season 5, episode 3 of The Boys was really amazing. Highly recommend you check it out if you haven't already. But for this video, slight spoilers just in case. So I would honestly say this episode is better than the episode 2 that we got last week for sure.
Saw with my own eyes. No cap on God, bro.
And this episode has a really good theme of, sins of the parents, but, more so towards the father, but also a kind of weird twisted parent dynamic. So the main theme is a twisted parent dynamic for this episode, and I'll explain why throughout the video. So in this episode, we find out that the reason Soulja Boy didn't get killed by the virus is because he has V1 in his system. V1 is the older but better version of the compound V we get today. So any superhero that was made in present day could get killed by the virus, but not Soulja Boy. And both teams of Vought and the Boys find this out, and it's basically just a race against time on who could find any traces of the last remaining V1 serum first. So Homelander wants to find it because obviously he doesn't want to die from the virus, but also we learn that the V1 serum makes Soulja Boy immortal, hence why he doesn't age anymore. So if Homelander could take some of this for himself, then not only will he not be killed by the virus, but he could stay the same age forever, making him immortal. And on the boy side of things, they don't want this to happen because Homelander would just be unkillable at that point. Because one, only a few people are as strong as Homelander, and two, the virus won't work on him. And both sides kind of go about this different ways. The boys go to Stan Edgar for help thanks to a meeting arranged by Marie Monroe, who unfortunately doesn't show up in this episode. Hopefully she does, because I think her role is not defeating Homelander anymore, but I think her role is going to be taking that virus bug parasite thingy out of Butcher by the end. Because we've seen before in Gen V Season 2 that after she awakens her powers, she can cure any and all bodily harm or diseases by manipulating the blood inside of someone. So maybe she could take that parasite out of Butcher, making him human again. And then, based on the episode titles, how the last 2 episodes are titled, maybe we could get a closer ending towards the comic book ending. And if you know how that ends. And on Vaught's side of thing, Homelander just asks Sister Sage and everyone else to put all their time and resources into tracking down, the boys or anybody who knows of the whereabouts of V1. Even though Sister Sage told him that it's impossible because all traces of V1 have been erased since the 1950s. And Godolkin might have been their last hope for that, but unfortunately, he got killed in Gen V Season 2, so they can't use him. Now, the first instance of a weird parent dynamic or sins of a parent dynamic we get here is at the beginning when Soulja Boy returns to base and they decide to make Soulja Boy a member of the 7 officially, and everyone's got camera crews and news anchors and they're applauding him for surviving everything, and he has a good name again. And Homelander takes his opportunity to take the shine away from Soulja Boy by revealing that they're father and son. And he only did this because he doesn't get any love in his life. His whole life he's been called a monster or someone pathetic, or people have told him on multiple occasions that he's worthless and nobody will ever love him. And he did this because Soulja Boy is not a good person. Even Black Noir tried to warn him of that, but he didn't listen. So here he's really finding out that Soulja Boy really doesn't like Homelander. But they're keeping Soulja Boy around for good public image despite everything else that's going on in the world. And after Homelander reveals their father-son relationship, everybody gets excited and they're happy for Homelander, and they're all focused on Homelander now, like he wants. Now this just tells me, or you guys too, that if Soulja Boy was a better person to Homelander, Homelander wouldn't have took Soulja Boy's shine like that. So he only did this for validation or because he was attention seeking. And meanwhile, back at Stan Edgar's hideout, we learned that he has another superhero named Maverick who's invisible. And this is the same guy that we see throughout Gen V Seasons 1 and 2 walking around Godolkin University. But plot twist, this is Translucent's son. The same Translucent that Huey killed back at the very start of the show. So, the sins of Maverick's father, Translucent, caused his father his life, and now that's putting a heavy burden on his son because he's angry, full of rage. He wants revenge on who killed his father. And Edgar told Maverick who killed his father, but he told him that it was Homelander instead of Huey. And Huey is having a rough time with this because he's trying to ease Maverick down. He's trying to get him to forget and let go of the rage and anger he's feeling, while also trying not to slip up because he's guilty of killing Maverick's father himself. And it's just really funny to see because throughout the season so far, we see Huey kind of keep a cool head. He's really focused on his goal, and having Maverick come in the way that he does and being the person who he is to Translucent, it's just throwing him off his game completely, to the point where Annie has to keep telling him, yo, stop talking to this guy. You're gonna get yourself caught. Stop talking to this guy. We also have another weird parent, father-son-ish dynamic going on between Butcher and Ryan. And Butcher basically just wants Ryan to try to fight Homelander with the virus. And he tries to give them this inspirational, heroic speech about how other people have sacrificed themselves for the country and all of that stuff. And Ryan actually buys into it because deep down somewhere, even though Butcher is a bad person, and Ryan can kind of recognize this, Butcher has always been somewhat of a father figure to Ryan, and you know, he filled in the places of fathership where Homelander lacked. So of course he's gonna be a little bit gullible for Butcher. So basically Butcher is just trying to manipulate Ryan into taking out himself and Homelander, kind of a two birds one stone situation. On the side, Frenchie and Kimiko went to go back to the lab where they're making the virus, but surprise surprise, Zoe hitched a ride in the back of the van without them noticing. And this causes her to find out that her father is still alive. And after reuniting, the father basically destroys all of the virus, all of the samples and everything. So the boys are back at square one, they're back at the drawing board, they have no way to kill these soups now without physically fighting them. And you know, it's a very touching moment when they reunite because they never thought they would see each other again. And Frenchie is ready to kill the father if he has to, and Kimiko lets them live because she basically tells them, let's not make them into the monsters that we've already become doing this mission. And Zoe and her father's dynamic is the only normal parent-child dynamic in this episode, so that's as normal as it's gonna get. Meanwhile, with Homelander, we see another weird parent-child dynamic thingy, and that's in the form of an angel version of Madeline Stillwell, who he killed a couple seasons ago. And he really missed her. He was glad to see this angel form of her because that was kind of the closest thing to a mother he's had. He's even breastfed from her in the past. So yeah, Homelander was really happy to see that, but she was basically just there to encourage him to keep going and don't give up on his goals, and that once he obtains his goal of immortality, no one would be able to stop him. And you could tell after this conversation, he's really had like a true epiphany. Now he's really not gonna hold back anymore. Even though he said that in the past, he's really gonna go all out with everything he does from now on. And he doesn't need anyone's approval but his own, because he will someday be immortal, you know, in his own eyes. We also get another weird twisted parent dynamic in this episode between Firecracker and Soulja Boy. Soulja Boy because he's Homelander's father, and Firecracker because she reveals to Soulja Boy after their sexual encounter that Homelander only sees her as a mother, but it's twisted because they both had that sexual encounter to kind of get revenge on Homelander. Firecracker did it because she's starting to notice that he doesn't appreciate the things she's done for him, because she's also breastfed him before and everything, and he just looks at her with disgust. And meanwhile, Soulja Boy only did it because he just straight up doesn't like Homelander. He thinks he's one of the weirdest people he's ever met. So basically, the mother and father of Homelander are doing their own thing together as revenge against their son. So yeah, another weird twisted parent dynamic there. Now this might cause issues within the Seven, which like might cause them to fight each other, because Homelander already doesn't like the fact that he's basically lost his father figure in Soulja Boy, but now he's lost the only other person that was willing to be there for him, which is Firecracker. So that's definitely going to cause some conflict within the Seven, and they might even tear each other apart a little bit, causing the boys to have less work to deal with when they get to that final battle. Meanwhile, back at Edgar's hideout, the Deep and Black Noir managed to track down the boys' location, so they kind of, with the help of the girl that can blow people up and the guy that could track you down by sniffing you from the Gen V show, they kind of trapped them inside of Edgar's base, and they have a plan to send Maverick outside to try to ambush them with this bomb that'll knock them out. But the plan fails because the Deep manages to capture Maverick, and he basically tells Maverick that Huey was the one that killed your father and not Homelander. So now this makes Maverick switch sides, and we get an epic fight, and I won't say how it ends because I want you to check it out for yourself. But it does end in a brutal way. And to end things off, we get our final example of another father-son twisted dynamic in parenting, because Ryan confronts Homelander after learning that the virus was destroyed, because now he's just impatient at this point and he doesn't think there's another chance to go at Homelander. And he basically confronts Homelander and asks if he forced himself on his mother before he was born. And Homelander tries to talk his way out of it, but Ryan's powers has evolved so much from when we previously saw him that he could tell that Homelander's lying, and Homelander is still trying to lie for the reason why he's lying. And that basically causes Ryan to try to fight Homelander. Now he gets a few good hits in, but that's because Homelander's just trying to convince him to calm down. He's trying to apologize to his son in a twisted way, because Homelander's apology is basically sounding like he's saying, I forgive you, Ryan, for the things you've done because I put too much pressure on you. So it's basically a backhanded apology from Homelander. After a while of Ryan trying not to hear what Homelander has to say, Homelander gives in to his anger because he remembers that he's achieving godhood now, and you know, his talk earlier with the angel version of Madeline Stillwell, that nobody can stand in your way. If they like you, cool. If they like you, if they like you, cool. If they hate you, also cool, as long as you're doing what you want to do. So he basically has this in mind, and he pummels Ryan nearly to death. And things end off with Homelander flying away and Butcher arriving a little too late to protect Ryan from Homelander. And this is another twisted father-son dynamic because, as I said before, Butcher basically manipulated this to happen. This was also a way to see or test that whether or not Ryan was ready to fight Homelander, because he used to tell Ryan for the longest time throughout all the other seasons that he's the only hope in stopping Homelander for good. But he sees that it clearly didn't work here. Overall, I would give this episode of The Boys a 10 out of 10 perfect score, because I really like the father and son dynamic this thing has going on, along with the other twisted parent relationship themes in the show. And the whole thing of, you know, Ryan and Homelander, Ryan and Butcher, Homelander and Soldier Boy, that dynamic fits perfectly with the title of the episode, which is titled Every One of You Sons of Bitches. The sons being Homelander, Ryan, and Maverick, and the bitches being Butcher, Homelander, Soldier Boy, and Translucent. And not only does the dynamic that we see in this episode fit with the title, but it really gives each pair of the father and sons really good character moments, and also some character growth, whether it be through epiphanies or whether it just be growing up and accepting the fact that your father isn't the person you wish he could be, but it's up to you to be your own person separated from your father instead of trying to fill up his boots. So that's going to be about it for this review of Season 5, Episode 3 of The Boys. If you did see it already, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you didn't see it, I highly recommend you go check it out. In the meantime, check out other videos I made in the past, and until then, I'll see you in the next one.